LinkedIn crossed 1 billion users with a B last year, and only 3% of people post content on LinkedIn. So what does that mean for your listeners? There is an opportunity for a ton of visibility for you on LinkedIn.
This is the Entrepreneurs United podcast with your hosts, John St. Pierre and Rich Hoffman.
After 15 years of being in corporate recruiting, Caroline Pennington turned to the entrepreneurial route of things and made a bold leap and created Chilled Vino, you'll hear about in this conversation. She also is a host of a podcast called The Feminine Founder, and the CEO of that business coaches entrepreneurs on maximizing their marketing presence online. And I know you focus, Caroline, on a lot of female marketing tips and tricks, but also Rich and I want to learn here today too. And I know you have a lot of tips that apply to all genders in really helping them maximize what they can do as an entrepreneur themselves. So thanks for joining us today on this podcast. We can't wait to jump in.
Thanks so much for having me.
So you're down in South Carolina and you were in corporate recruiting. That we know that. At what point did you say, you know what, I'm going to make this leap and move into the entrepreneurial realm of things versus the corporate side of things?
So everything changed when I decided to start building my personal brand and business on LinkedIn. So go back 15 years, I start working as a recruiter. I walk into the office. They say, why don't you come work for us? I had no idea what staffing agency was, no idea what recruiting was. I start placing entry-level professionals, receptionists, file clerks, paralegals. Fast forward 15 years later, and I'm working at the highest level, placing the C-suite professionals. So CEOs, CFOs, COOs, the high 6, 7, 8-figure income earners. Where am I finding those people? On LinkedIn. So that's when I discovered LinkedIn is a really powerful marketing tool. And so I decided to start building my personal brand, because if those high-figure income earners are hanging out on LinkedIn, you want to be seen.
Okay.
And over the course of time in now placing 6, 7, 8-figure income earners, what has surprised you?
The number one question I get asked from people about basically what is their secret sauce, what is the magic that they have? And my answer is emotional intelligence.
And is that something that you work with your people on, is developing emotional intelligence?
I work with the mindset piece because LinkedIn is the long game. It's not the get rich quick or run a Facebook ad and get all these leads to come in. But once you start building a personal brand on LinkedIn, you supercharge the know, like, trust factor. And now when I meet with prospects or do business development meetings, they already know who I am, who I serve, and what I do. So you supercharge the whole intro process, and your leads start coming to you rather than you having to go outbound and chase them.
So tell me more about the emotional intelligence piece. Why did that surprise you, and what did you notice as the pattern?
Self-awareness is key. Taking feedback and adjusting and pivoting professionally. That's where the difference between the average person and the high achiever comes in.
Tell me more.
So I think a lot of times when I was a recruiter, a lot of times people are not open to feedback. But the people that are open to the feedback and who make the pivots and make the changes and whatever they're doing, fill the blank professionally, that's what moves the needle for you.
And what did you notice as a pattern of how they were going about capturing that feedback? Is there an efficient method or process, or was it just any old time when somebody had something to say, they were open, or what'd you notice?
I think it's those people that listened and made adjustments with their executive team, and then also being open to learning and growing personally, professionally, all the things. That is what is the game changers. The people that are open to doing those things. We have to invest in ourselves. Yes, it costs time. Yes, it costs money. But if we don't do those things, then we're not going to grow.
And your focus is specifically building brand on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And can you give a couple of tidbits on how does somebody go about doing that? If I was to go in a candy shop, I'd say, hey, can I get a free sample? Can I get a free sample of, how does somebody go about doing that?
Okay, so these are the things, the actionable items for your listeners that you need to do if you're going to set yourself up for success in building a personal brand on LinkedIn. Number one, you need to optimize your profile. What does that mean? That means you need to have a professional picture uploaded from your shoulders up. The banner behind your professional picture, that's like waterfront real estate, okay? So you need to have on there what you do, who you serve, and how they can reach you. Have a call to action on your banner. The tagline under your name of exactly what you do, that matters to you. You have less than 3 seconds to capture someone's attention, so you need to make it really clear about what you do, who you serve, and how they can reach you. You need to have the about section filled out. Don't write that in third person, write that in first person like you're actually talking to somebody. And then you need to have your full employment history filled out. I wouldn't go back more than 15 years in your work history. And then you need to have your education filled out. At the end of the day, LinkedIn is just an SEO website and a social media marketing tool. And so people can actually run searches. I actually do that as a recruiter based off of the university or based off of the skills section too. So optimize your profile, number 1. Number 2, you want to start posting content on LinkedIn. LinkedIn crossed 1 billion users with a B last year, and only 3% of people post content on LinkedIn. So what does that mean for your listeners? There is an opportunity for a ton of visibility for you on LinkedIn. Number 3, you need to start engaging with your audience. So what that means is don't expect to start posting and the floodgates open and the comments start blowing up for you. You're going to have to start going out there and actually engaging with other people's posts first. The law of engagement, the law of reciprocity exists in a really big way on LinkedIn. And so if you want engagement, you need to give engagement first. So do those 3 things and you'll be set up for success on LinkedIn.
Love that. So in terms of, I just want to repeat if I can, in the optimizing profile, there's the banner behind your photo, prime real estate. And you need to have a call to action within there and tell people what you do right off the bat, including the tagline, which is next. You only have 3 seconds to capture their attention, and you need to grab that in a very succinct way. The about section, write it like you're talking to them specifically, not talking in the third person, but you're talking to them. And then make sure you have your proper work, education, skills, those kinds of things. So got that in general. Post content. I want to come back to post content in a second, but I understand number 2. And then number 3, engaging with the audience. So let's assume that we all worked on number 1 and we all optimized our profile and did all of that. And we're now on number 2. Speak in the first person. Let's use a little bit of a case study. Post a good amount of content. I see people in the physical world. They're like, oh my gosh, I see you every day. Approach on LinkedIn doesn't necessarily result in what I would call trackable sales metrics to my coaching business, as an example. Like I don't have, oh, look at all the leads I've generated from LinkedIn directly, like I would a Google ad or a Facebook ad or things like that, where I could track the leads coming in. But it's awareness. It's that no trust factor that you talked about, right? That before we engage with somebody, the no like trust factor, that before we engage on something, there's already that credibility built up because they're seeing a lot of it. And so in my mind, I'm playing the long game, which you talked about earlier, which is if I put enough content out there, the content has value. It doesn't matter if I don't track the leads necessarily. It's good value out there that builds up credibility and trust and thought leadership and those kinds of things. Is that the right way of thinking about it? Or am I selling myself short here, being maybe I'm not maximizing the potential because I'm not generating a lot of trackable traffic from it?
For you as a coach and an expert, the content that does really well on LinkedIn. So people are on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook being entertained. They're watching cat videos, dog videos, whatnot. The people on LinkedIn are looking to learn. So whatever it is, fill in the blank that you're an expert at, start talking about that. So I originally started my LinkedIn journey in personal branding talking about recruiting. I wanted to be the expert go-to executive recruiter. And so I talked about things like why you should never accept a counter offer. That specific post went viral 4 times. I would talk about appropriate rounds of interviews based on the level of position, i.e., if you have a receptionist position open, you don't need to interview her 3 times, him or her 3 times. Like once or twice is enough. For executive level, that gets a little bit more in depth. Obviously, it's a higher level search. So 5 or 6 rounds is appropriate for something like that. And so start talking about, and even if you think maybe this isn't LinkedIn worthy or this isn't good enough for LinkedIn, I get that a lot from my clients. They say, I have a lot to say, but I don't think it's LinkedIn worthy. And my answer is, it is. People want to hear from you as the expert. And one thing you can do to start gaining leads from LinkedIn and your content on there, every single Wednesday, I do a poll. And it could be a silly poll like, are you ready for the warmer weather? Or it could be something more serious. What's holding you back from posting on LinkedIn? Is it your boss? Is it you don't know what to say? And you start talking to your audience. And even if they don't engage with your posts by liking it, commenting on it, they will participate in a poll. And it's an easy way to circle back with them in the DMs and say, hey, Caroline, I understand you are struggling with personal branding because you don't know what to say. Let's jump on a call and learn more about how I can help you.
So but let me make sure I got this right. I understand some social media is for entertaining and some is for learning, and LinkedIn is learning. Got that. And I think the piece that maybe you're bringing forth is bring educational content. But I am not finding, even though I think some of the content I put out there is good or great, that it goes viral necessarily, or that I feel posts get more and more engagements as I post more over time, things like that. And I think maybe it's the third piece that you just articulated that maybe I'm missing, which is my engagement. I don't spend a lot of time commenting on comments or liking other posts or DMing somebody who liked my post. Like, I don't spend maybe enough time there, which could be the missing link between that full engagement circle that I'm missing. So tell me more about that. Part of it, and this is going to sound maybe a little bad, but I almost have this if I'm spending too much time on social media, I'm not actually doing what I should be doing, and therefore it's not good. It's kind of like I tell my kids, like, okay, get off Instagram. You've been on it for 2 hours. It's enough, right? So I don't necessarily want to be on LinkedIn for 2 hours responding to people and writing comments, and I feel like it's inefficient of my time, but then I'm missing the lack of engagement. I don't know, Rich, if you feel the same way. It's almost in my mind, it's not the best use of my time to be spending 2 hours on LinkedIn responding to people. On the same token, if I don't do it, I'm not going to get the engagement. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And what's the right way to approach that? Any tips or tricks on that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't want to sit on LinkedIn 2 hours a day either. I just spend 30 minutes on LinkedIn each day, and all of my content is scheduled. And every single Monday through Friday, I show up at 8 a.m. and my audience is trained. They know that they're going to see me and posting every single day, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Again, these are all pre-scheduled posts. So anything that you see of mine has been scheduled out. I use the LinkedIn scheduling app to do it. I am aware of when my posts are going live. So I know at 8 a.m. it goes live. My comments start coming in right after that. So even if I'm in my workout clothes, at a stoplight coming home from the gym, I'm aware that's when the comments are going to start coming in. So I'll go log in then, typically on my app, and I'll start engaging back with my audience to make sure that they know I've gotten their messages. I start being engaged in that way too. Back to the DMs. That's where the magic is going to happen for you. I'm going to give you an example of a bad approach and a good approach.
Okay.
When I first started this journey, I would slide into their DMs and basically pitch slap them. Here's my newsletter, weekly tips on how to thrive on LinkedIn. That specific message got less than 20% response. Now I slide into their DMs, every single person that comes into my ecosystem, and I say, I use their name, Caroline. Nice to meet you. I look forward to connecting further. That's all I say. My response rate has gone up to over 80% with that pivot. And here's what happens is the people on LinkedIn, you're going to get 3 responses. 1, they're going to ghost you. 2, they're going to send the likewise AI back to you. Or 3, they're going to go do their due diligence on you. Okay, Caroline, who's this woman in my DMs? And if they are interested in your services or what you're doing, they will come to you and ask you for a meeting.
So let me make sure I got that, because, what I heard there is have consistency with when you post, so people know to depend on you. That's going to come out. And usually, by the way, people probably go on to LinkedIn or other socials at specific times that's routine to them because they have that time in their space or whatever it may be. So they'll see you consistently. When you do that, pay attention to what's being said and interact with the comments, but that's not where the magic's going to happen. Where the magic's going to happen is in the DMs. So this is something I don't do. I do comment to other people's comments and thanks for posting that. That's whatever. I do that. But I don't take somebody who made a comment on one of my posts and send them a DM and say, hi, Caroline, it's nice to meet you. I'd like to learn more about you. Or can you say what you said again? What do you say exactly?
I use their name. I always say their name. That's important on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
and I say, nice to meet you. I look forward to connecting further.
Perfect. And that's somebody who would have responded or liked one of your posts?
It's every single person who comes into my LinkedIn ecosystem. So I do spend 1 hour each week going through business connections, not followers. Okay, so let me make the difference here. And LinkedIn changed 2 years ago so that you can have followers versus connections now. And you want to use your connections sparingly because you will cap out at 30K. So you want to make sure your connections are quality, not quantity. The followers can go up organically or through paid stuff, no matter what you do. But your connections, you're going to get capped at 30K.
Gotcha. So if somebody comes into your ecosystem, when you say that, what that means is they sent you a connection invite and you've accepted it, or the other way around. When somebody comes in, you send them that message.
Yeah.
And they either respond or don't, and that creates an engagement with them that may continue and flourish into something more.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Rich, I'm curious. I know we talked about this a while ago, like a long time ago, but there was a philosophy at one point that just connect with everybody. Makes you look popular. You got X amount of connections. And then there was this other philosophy, which is only connect with people you really want to connect with and or really know. And the amount of times I've actually reached out to someone and go, hey, Rich, I see you're connected to Caroline. Can you introduce me? And they're like, Caroline? I don't know Caroline.
So you just did that earlier last week, and I knew exactly who you were talking about. And that's because I've gone the route of I want to connect with people who I actually know. I'd love to get, Caroline, your opinion on, should we be connecting with people who we don't know? Somebody who appears to just be marketing to us, and I love your term, they pitch slap me. They're doing that, or they have some agenda, but I have no idea who this is. Should I be connecting with those people? I'm not currently.
Okay, I'm going to give you a muddy answer. But so the people that come to you that want to connect, that want to sell you, let's say, SEO services, copyright services, marketing services, it'll have that in their tagline of exactly what they're doing there. And I would not accept those connection requests. I am for and an advocate of you sending connection requests to people that could be potential clients for you. So if you have somebody that maybe you don't necessarily know or that you think could be a good fit for you, I would still send them a connection request. And let me add to this for your audience. I get asked all the time, do I need the premium account or can I have success on LinkedIn with the free account? You can have success on LinkedIn with the free account. The only difference in those two things are, number one, if you have the free account, you cap out at 100 connections a week. If you have the premium account, you cap out at 250 connections a week. And the only other difference between the premium is you have the hyperlink of follow my website or meet with me or whatever you want to say on that. Is it worth it? No.
So you'd say it's not worth it to do the premium period because it's not worth it to have the work with me. Although you're saying it's not worth it, but I'm looking on your LinkedIn and you have the work with me. So tell me about the contradiction there. Like not worth it.
I do LinkedIn marketing.
What's that?
If you don't do LinkedIn marketing, you don't need it.
Okay. So not worth it for a beginner who's starting off where they go, oh, I need to start paying for this. It's no, go see if you max out your 100 connections a week first. And once you start doing that, maybe go start doing anything for free.
And as what happens is when you start that process is you start training the LinkedIn algorithm. So if you go to the top of your profile, it says My Network. There's two tabs below it, GROW and Catch Up. The Catch Up section, you don't need to pay any attention to it. Just basically job updates, birthdays, whatnot. The Grow section, GROW, is where you're going to find your potential prospects. And once you start training it as to who your ideal client or customer is, it'll start feeding you those people. And so what happens is you can just go to that Grow tab every week and go in there and spend less than 5 minutes and boom, knock out your 100 connection requests.
Whoa, hold on a second. Where's this?
You go to the top, it says My Network, and then below it, there's two tabs, GROW and Catch Up.
Grow and Catch Up. Okay, got it.
Okay. So once you start training the algorithm on LinkedIn of exactly who your ideal customer or avatar is, it'll start feeding you those people in that Grow tab every single week.
Interesting. So where it says people you may know section?
People you may know, people that you've connected with recently, people in your area, depending on what you're targeting for your marketing on LinkedIn, it'll start feeding. I would say give it maybe 2 or 3 weeks to train it. And then once you got it trained up, it'll start feeding you people every single week. So it makes it easy for you. Saves you time.
All right. Assuming we have some listeners who are going and doing this, I'm going to ask for my benefit and theirs. I don't see the My Network area. Where am I missing it? I'm assuming other people may be the same.
So let me log into my LinkedIn profile.
It's on the
right now.
top bar, Rich. So if you're just on any page, you see home, My Network, jobs, messaging, notifications.
Oh,
Yes. That,
okay. Got it. And I see grow. Yes.
Okay.
And under grow, I've got the invitations of the people who I have not accepted, who I don't know. And now you're giving me a good filter to go back through those, and somebody who might be a potential client, connect with them. And I love the idea of, hi, Daryl, nice to meet you. I look forward to connecting further. You're saying you get an 80% response rate off of that versus the pitch slap. And then underneath that, it has people in the professional, in the coaching industry who you might know. Is that the area where I could train it where, yeah, I don't necessarily want people in the coaching industry. I want potential prospects. Is that where I'm going to see higher quality people who might be more my clients if I train it?
Yep. That's exactly right.
And how do I train it? Just by the types of connections that I am trying to get weekly?
So in the top left area, there's a search tab, just like for Google. And you can type in, let's say you own a business and you're a lawyer and you serve X amount of people in your area. You can type in the titles that they would have. And then once you get the filters going, you can filter it down to location. Let's say I just work with people in my geographic area. I could filter it down to South Carolina. You can even filter it down to past companies that they work for if you have industry specific or a niche there. And there's all kinds of different ways you can use the SEO tools and the filters to get very targeted to exactly the type of person that you're looking for in your searches and you want to connect with. So I would use that tool to do that. And once you start doing that and sending out the connection request after you run your searches, again, after 2 or 3 weeks, that grow tab will be trained up. And so LinkedIn will feed those people to you. So it saves time.
And it's going to see based on those searches and based on the follow through of connection requests, who are the types of people. And of course, the algorithms program that way because the more connections that happen, the more value there is to LinkedIn, the more value the company's worth.
Exactly.
Interesting. Tell me about why and when did you decide to hone in on female entrepreneurs?
I started doing a post every single week on Fridays. As we look at the week, Monday through Friday, Thursday, Friday, people peter off. They're not really interested in learning and growing that much anymore. They're more just there to consume content. So I started doing a post every single Friday. And this is all organic. I literally had people slide into my DMs and say, can I pay you to be on that list? And the answer is no, you cannot pay me to be on a list. It's completely handpicked, organic. I started featuring other female content creators because there were so few of us at the time. And I started doing it 2 years ago. And I used to feature 5, that got to be too much. So every single Friday, I say, Friday friends, these are 5 people I like you to follow. And this is why. And I do the @ sign, I tag them. And I literally just go in there and copy paste their tagline. So it takes me less than 5 minutes to put the post together. And that action alone, I have received in tenfold of people featuring me, being in articles, all the things, just because I did that to uplift others. And I did feature both males and females in the very beginning. Now I just feature females. But you're right. We're all here to learn. But my point is, featuring other people and giving back on LinkedIn does really well.
Okay, I would love to get, and thank you for being so generous. I asked for a free sample and I'm almost getting full. You're feeding me so much. I love it. So here's what I understand about, and I want to get more on like your week on LinkedIn. Half hour a day, you get on. You usually get on around the time that your 8 a.m. Monday through Friday post goes out and you use a scheduling tool for that. You spend about an hour a week in the business connections. And then you said it takes whatever, 5-10 minutes to do the Friday friends. What are the other things that you currently have in your schedule for LinkedIn? And what are you doing during that time?
Here's the exact recipe to have success on LinkedIn. Number one, on Monday, do a pro tip or talk about something that you're the expert at. Number two, for me, having a podcast, and for you guys, hosting a podcast, every single Tuesday is dedicated to my podcast. 3, Wednesday, I do a poll. I talk to my audience every single Wednesday. And it can even be a silly poll. Like I did a poll about who do you want to win the Super Bowl? And I had the 2 teams' choices. That poll did really well. So if you're looking at the month, you need to do 4 polls. 3 of them will be serious, and then 1 of them will be fun for me. Thursday, do a post as a thought leader, and Friday, feature somebody else.
And tell me about the difference between the pro tip and the thought leader as you make those distinct.
So pro tip, you could talk about what you're the expert at. On Thursday, it could be more of opinion-based. So I like to do unpopular opinions a lot on LinkedIn for 2 reasons. Number one, I just like to push the envelope a little bit. Number 2, it drives really great engagement. So let me give you an example of an unpopular opinion that I like to do. I like to talk about all the time about how you need to have a strategy. You can't just start posting on LinkedIn. You might as well throw spaghetti at the wall. So I always talk about when you get started on LinkedIn, you need to have a strategy. And it's so funny because the people who don't have a strategy will come and comment and say, you don't need a strategy or get all defensive or whatever. And as long as they're nice and polite, I'll keep the comment. If it's rude, I'll delete it. But it's obvious that you don't have a strategy. And so come on a LinkedIn profile and posting that, saying that. So unpopular opinions do really well. Do's and don'ts do really well. That's another example of stuff that will do well on Thursdays. One thing I used to do once a quarter that I now do once a month is I reintroduce myself. So people, let's say I choose 10 facts about me. 2 of them will be personal and fun. Like when I'm not doing LinkedIn marketing with my clients, I like to spend time by the water. I live in South Carolina. We like to do the boat, pool, beach. And then one time I did a fun fact about me that I prefer hot tea in the morning over coffee. And people literally, I got over 50 comments about why I need to be drinking coffee instead of tea. So have fun with it is my point to your listeners. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure does. When you did that on drinking tea versus coffee and people came back and they were trying to persuade you to drink coffee. By the way, did they win? Are you drinking coffee?
No.
They did not win. So did you then come back in the people who were saying, no, you should drink coffee? Did you do the same thing in their DMs? Hi, Daryl. Nice to meet you. I look forward to connecting further. And did you comment on what they commented on with the coffee? Or like, how did you make that transition from coffee to maybe you're a potential client?
I would just go back in there and like their comment.
And then if you saw there may be a potential client, then maybe you would do the DM.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. What's the hack for finding the content that I'm genuinely interested in reading, that I want to put a genuine comment on because I did take the time to read it and say, hey, I appreciate what I read and I have a follow-up question, that type of thing. Is there a way to filter that so I'm not spending time looking for it as much?
There's not a filter for it, but I would highly encourage both you two and your listeners to curate your feed. So what that means is get your feed to a place where you actually enjoy going through it. I personally do not like long form content. That is the paragraphs on paragraphs of people's posts because I don't have time to read your post all day. Like I'm busy. So short to medium form content does really well. I would say you always need to assign a picture to your post. Those do much better than just a copy post. And then once you curate your feed to actually consume what people are saying and what they're talking about, you'll enjoy the process more of actually engaging with them doing comments on their posts. And comments go a lot farther than if you actually like this person saying, I would highly encourage you to actually do a comment and do something that's more than one word. Don't say exactly or yes and tag their name. Actually say something that's got some meat to it. You don't have to write a book. You don't need to write a couple sentences, but just say something that's more thoughtful. And I would say if you're going to start the commenting game, try to focus on doing 3 to 5 comments a day, 5 days a week. That'll take you less than 5 minutes. Just go through your feed, and that way that leads to a lot more visibility, because once you start commenting on people's posts, not only are you getting eyeballs from your audience, but you're getting eyeballs from their audience as well. So it's a double whammy.
Do you have any format of comments that you might recommend? Is there hey, and here's a way to structure a comment that, for whatever success is in a comment, here's a successful structure?
There is not, but I will say when you are doing a comment, you want to tag the person. So say what you need to say and then tag them at the end. So that way they're notified that you've gone in and commented on their post. Most likely they'll either come back and re-comment on your stuff or they'll go in and like it.
If you were to call out the number one thing, if our listeners or every business owner, you could have the attention of for a sentence or two, and they were willing to take just one action, what would be the one thing you would say, you have to do this? If you're not doing anything, you should at least do this. What is that?
I'm going to answer your question and then I'm going to tell you a story afterwards that's going to be a great example as to what and why it's so important. So to answer your question, you need to optimize your profile. And my story to this is when I was an executive recruiter, I had a CFO position with a private equity company. This was a 7-figure job. And this person could live anywhere in the United States. They just had to have BPO, industry-specific experience. And so I was out there searching for this person. I came across the perfect person, and he was from Denver, Colorado, and had a hiking picture with a big old floppy hat and a stick in his hand. And I almost did not contact him for this job that, by the way, he ended up getting because of his picture, and his profile was not optimized. And I had to have the conversation with him on the back end after he got the job. Dude, you need to update your professional picture and your profile. Like, I almost did to reach out to you about this job because of that. That's my story.
He would have lost his job. It's convenient that your business is working with people on LinkedIn, and what you use to get your people is LinkedIn. Well, the majority of people who you work with, their business is not doing something on LinkedIn. So I'm curious, like I'd imagine the grand majority of the customers you find are from LinkedIn, in part because you're teaching them LinkedIn things. For customers who don't have a service that is serving LinkedIn, roughly what's the percentage of business you've been able to help them shift to coming from LinkedIn? And about how long did it take to get there?
My contract when you hire my agency is at 6 months, but it takes really 3 months at least to get the machine built. And here's the reality is that your customer, no matter if you have a product-based business or a service-based business, is on LinkedIn. So if you're listening to this and you're a CPA, the people that can hire you to do taxes, they're on LinkedIn. If you're a lawyer, your potential clients are on LinkedIn. Even if you have a product-based company like I do too, your customers are on LinkedIn. And so it's just creating, if your job isn't to be LinkedIn marketing like what I do, that's fine. We'll just get you set up and get the machine going and get it scheduled so that you've got content going out there. You're getting visible, and then you're just paying attention to when the engagement and the comments start coming in. So there's a way to do it that is manageable, because once you have your LinkedIn set up and your profile optimized and your personal brand there, again, it supercharges the know, like, trust factor, and it is just a win-win for your business.
And is there any promise at the end of your contract on number of customers or revenue created, or is the promise that we'll get you set up to optimize the know, like, trust factor?
The promises will get you set up. Also, you don't have to spend any money on ads on LinkedIn, and that's one beautiful thing about it, because I've done the Facebook ad game with my company, Childbino. That gets very expensive, especially if you're trying to scale. The beauty about LinkedIn is that, again, because that 3% stat, you don't have a lot of competition on there.
And if you're not comfortable sharing and it's very customized, that's fine. I'm curious on a 6-month, your typical is a 6-month contract. Is there a flat rate that you charge for that? Or is it like, no, it depends on the industry. It depends on how you're starting, depends on how much work it is. And I need people to call me to find out what my rate is. Or is there a flat rate that our listeners could be aware of and know, oh, that's what it costs. I'm interested. I'm going to connect with her.
There is a flat rate. It's $2,500 a month.
Okay. And how quickly have you found that your customers get an ROI on that?
I have one client, and she was a nurse. Then she became a healthcare executive. Then she became an entrepreneur. And she went from 0 to over 5,000 followers in under 6 months. She now has a fully booked schedule and a wait list because of her speaking career. She goes into hospitals and gets hired to help out with their nursing retention and running programs to help the nurses with culture and all kinds of staffing issues. And this all happened because she started showing up on LinkedIn.
That's excellent. Really appreciate you joining us today. And thank you so much for your generosity. And I think there's some really actionable tips that we got from this. And I'm interested in learning more, and I know others will be as well, in terms of how do we really get this going and what does that 6 months look like? What does it entail? And I'm sure you'll be hearing from many. So thank you so much for being on with us today.
Having me.
Absolutely, Caroline. How can people reach out to learn more about you and your offerings and your business? Obviously, LinkedIn. I think you have a website as well, but can you share that with the listeners real quick?
Sure. My website is femininefounder.com.
Okay, perfect. And I know you can connect all your socials from there because I did that earlier today. Thanks for being with us, Caroline. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Stay tuned as John and Rich unpack today's conversation.
Rich, I have pages of notes from this conversation with Caroline. We've had a few guests over the past 5 seasons who've come on and talked about LinkedIn marketing strategies and different things to do. I think I got more actionable tips out of this one than ever. And maybe it's because I continue to think through ways I could be optimizing my presence on LinkedIn. I'd be curious if we both just thought about it for a second. What is the one thing you took from today that you feel you need to do better or more on LinkedIn to improve your presence? What would be that one thing for you?
I really don't do a lot of posts, and I do sharing of the podcast, but I don't do a lot of posts. And I liked her format of Monday do a pro tip, Tuesday she does her podcast. So I could do that and forward something out on the podcast on Tuesday. And then Wednesday's a poll, Thursday's thought leader, and Friday's featuring someone else. I've never featured someone else. I've never done a poll. If anything, I think I've done maybe a couple of pro tip things, and I share podcasts. I've never put out an unpopular opinion to see if that would create engagement. So yeah, I got a lot of things and options on posting. I know you asked for one, but I also feel like I could get better at reading and commenting on other people's. I'm not currently curating my feed intentionally. I'm walking into some things. Some are interesting, some aren't. I'm not actively curating. Man, I could keep going. I got so much out of this. Probably the number one thing, John, is I need to schedule a half-hour a day to do more stuff on LinkedIn. That's probably the best thing I could do. And then among all the things I got from Caroline, there's a bunch of stuff I could do. If I don't make time for it, it's not going to get done. I'm going to make a commitment that I don't think I'm committed to a half-hour a day right now, but I'm committed to 2 or 3 times a week. I want to put a half-hour in my schedule and start doing more. And I have a feeling the more I do, the more I'm going to want to do.
Yeah. You know what I thought was interesting, and I maybe have the numbers wrong, but there are hundreds of millions of users. I think she said 1 billion.
1 billion.
Yeah.
No, 3 billion.
3 billion. Okay. So there are 3 billion users and only 3% of people post. And I would say, if I had to ask her if she was still here, how many of the 3% that post, because I'm a poster, how many of the 3% that post actually engage? and slide into people's DMs and say, it's nice to meet you. And have their grow tab that I had never really seen grow before, actually, until today, and you
Yeah.
neither. Like that you can actually set that up so that you see people that you want to engage with because they're potential clients of yours. How many people do all those activities? I have to guess that it's got to be like maybe 5% of the 3% that
Yeah.
actually post, that actually do the following engagement piece. And so for me, like to your point, like dedicating some time to intentionally go on there versus just scroll and see if I like anything and click the like buttons and whatever, be a little more intentional on people that are trying to connect with me and make sure that they're the right people. And when they do connect, try and connect with them further. Hey, I'd like to learn more about your business or this, that. But then also, I can't remember the last time I've sent connection requests out. It's been a while that
Yeah.
I've intentionally looked for people that maybe good fits for my business or what we do and proactively reach out to them and try and engage with them. So to me, it's that proactive engagement. Maybe do a little less scrolling and reading and listening and be more intentional in specific posts on specific people, on specific things. I think that would really help my presence on LinkedIn overall.
I like her, "Hi, John. Nice to meet you. I look forward to connecting further," and just leaving it at that. I like that. I often will accept a connection request, and then they just go into the pile of connections I have,
You got pitch
and
slapped?
I don't pitch slap them. Some of them do me, but I don't reach out when I hit the connection. Funny enough, John, just last week, I had somebody who attended a session that I did, and they reached out and did a connection request. I accepted, and had I had her line, I would have used it. But instead, I just put hi, put her name, and said, "How was your week?" And she said, "I had a great week. I'm going to be going to the British Virgin Islands for spring break, and I'd love to schedule one-on-one time with you when I get back." I don't know. Would that have happened if I just accepted her request and just she went into the pile of connections? And was me replying back and just acknowledging, "Hey, I noticed you created a connection," and not pitch slapping her,
Yep.
but then going, "Hey, just how was your week?" So I think I'm going to do that. I have a hard time picturing a time where I'm going to accept a connection request and not reach out now
Yeah.
moving forward.
I wonder about retroactively, Rich. I've thought about doing this. I remember back in 2019 when I took my sabbatical, I had this reconnection period where I literally went through all of my connections and reached out to people I hadn't talked to in years. Hey, how's it going? Just following up. How you doing? How's life? And reconnected with a whole bunch of people that I hadn't talked to in years. And I almost feel like on a periodic basis, and maybe now is the time, maybe going back through my connections. And when I see it was a salesperson I connected with or whatever, just disconnecting and keeping it pure to people that I really know or had an interaction with or whatever it may be. But then also reaching back out to some people just to
Mhm.
generate more conversation and connection. That's what it's all for. And I think you know this, Rich, but my wife, Amy, got employed at 2 places specifically based on connections on LinkedIn that were pure connections where I knew somebody who worked at the company and I was like, hey, my wife's applying for that job over there. Can you put in a good word? And sure enough, by the time she showed up, like they had good words where they were like, hey, I've heard from you from a few different people in this business because of LinkedIn. Now I feel, unfortunately, if I reach out to someone and say, hey, do you know so-and-so? On that example you gave me, like last week, I sent you an email and said, do you know so-and-so?
Yep.
I'm looking to learn more about them. There was 3 people that I sent that email to. You were the only person who actually remembered that person. The other people didn't remember who that person was because they just connected with them ad hoc.
I did the same thing with that same person. They sent the connection request to me, and this was years ago. At this point, it must have been 10 years ago. They sent a connection request to me. And because I was very strict on, I'm not accepting people, but he did sales training, and I was like, I don't know, man, maybe it's interesting. I reached out to probably a dozen people who he was connected with,
Yeah.
who were at CertaPro, and I said, hey, tell me about this guy. And they said, oh, I don't, all dozen of them. Oh, I don't know. So I ended up connecting with him. We scheduled a conversation, so on and so forth. And I said to you in the email I sent you last week, we ended up having $100,000 of business moved to this guy because he did a program on persuasion. Well, all that came from him sending a connection request. Nobody else knew him, but I never would have met the guy. It was his connection request that got him $100,000 in business. It was probably within 9 months of sending the connection request to me. So this stuff does work, and it has worked. This worked 10 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like it's about time that you and I get on the train.
Yeah, and speaking of persuasion and LinkedIn, maybe we should get that person on our podcast too, actually, now that I think about it. But
Good idea. Or get them to the Entrepreneurs United Empowerment Experience.
there you go. There you go. And if you haven't looked up the Entrepreneurs United Empowerment Experience, entrepreneursunited.us, October 4th through the 6th, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's coming up here this fall. Please come join us, and hopefully you enjoyed this podcast episode with Caroline Pennington. Thanks for joining us.